If they don't agree, they won't support it. If you have a cavalry in Poland, like in Poland they believed the cavalry was the most important thing. And the Germans believed war tanks were. And they slaughtered the hell out of the Poles because they couldn't get past that point. If the American and English people and French people don't realize what I'm talking about, they'll be blown to smithereens by their own stupidity. We are lousing up the air and the oceans, and that we know that politicians don't know what to do. Because I've asked them. I've asked every politician that I've grown up with, and so, what do you do about this? How would you stop cars from hitting each other? How would you stop buildings from burning? I don't know. I don't know. They don't know what to do. They're businessmen.
Okay,
or lawyers.
Let me read a couple of texts here. Paul in Warrington says, wouldn't a new society need a leader, or do we lead ourselves?
No leaders.
And what if a person went against the grain? Who makes law?
Okay. We feel that people go against the grain because they've been damaged by society. In other words, if you have two children, I'm a great believer in environment shapes values. I believe that the dialect you speak, your facial expressions, you learn. Women move a certain way. Oh, did I see a gorgeous hat? And if a guy is brought up by women only, they'll move just like that. If you're raised in Italy, you say, come on, they eat. It's a good food. Is that an imitation? No, that's the product effect that environment has upon people.
This is nature v nurture, isn't it? The old argument.
Yes. Now,
like in Othello.
They think that human nature is a certain way, most people, because they're brought up that way. Actually, there's no such thing as free choice. If you ask an Eskimo, what do you want? You can have anything you want. He doesn't say a stainless steel refrigerator. He can't say that. So if you ask an impoverished person, what would make you happy? A steady job, maybe, and a good car? What the hell do you think he can say? He can't pass that his society superimposes upon him. When you're very young, the society starts pumping stuff into your head. What's the greatest country in the world? I don't know, the good old USA, if you're brought up there. And who loves you more than anybody in the world? I don't know, your mommy and daddy. So they pump all that crap in your head. Then as you get older, there's a Mickey Mouse Club, all crap. And as long as you start filling the heads of kids with crap, you're hurting the future. So kids can learn geology, continental drift, space science. Kids can learn anything. They don't need to be members of the Mickey Mouse Club. That's socially offensive. So what you call decent people today would be considered criminals in the near future. The Supreme Justice of the Supreme Court will be considered a criminal in the future. Why? Because there used to be a definition of a criminal, and that definition was one who removes the thing from your house or your person without your permission. Today they've changed the definition. One who's caught, which is much better.
Well, let's talk about money.
Yeah.
Let's talk about money.
There isn't any money in our society.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an economy based on what's available.
Yes.
Not money.
Not money.
So let me ask a question then. Say I'm living in this society, and I've got an old car, and I want a new car. But I don't just want any new car, because I'd quite like to have something a bit nice. How do I get that?
Here's how
and does that mean somebody else doesn't get that?
If she drives an old beat-up Volkswagen, and you drive a Mercedes, if her brakes fail, you die. So we have no old cars. They weigh as much as a new car. So we reprocess them and turn out the best cars America can turn out. Let me explain that further.
Okay.
The soldiers in the U.S. Army Air Force don't get any beat-up old planes. They get the best the nation can turn out, the best machine guns, the best radar that we can turn out. Why don't we do that in times of peace? Why don't we give hospitals whatever they need? Electron microscope, MRI machines, whatever they need, give it to them. It's based on resources. Money is a nothing thing. If you were shipwrecked on an island with $10 million and your wife had gold and diamonds and boats, and there's no water, no arable land, no fish, you have nothing. Money is a nothing thing. It's a made-up story that supports certain groups of people. And they call it the Federal Reserve System, which is not federal law. It's as federal as the federal laundry. They don't have. It's not a government thing. The public is deliberately uneducated to understand how things work. In America, when we had slavery, if you taught your slaves how to read, you were fined. Do you know that? And in Salem, Massachusetts, they burned women who disagreed with certain aspects of the Bible.
Well, they burned them as witches.
They burned them as witches.
Yeah.
Now, did you know this? That the guy that found those women got their possessions, their books, their house, their car, their horse and wagon. Did you know you accumulated their possessions if you pointed them out?
I didn't know that.
That should be in our history book.
I can't say I'm desperately surprised. I mean, that just shows you that that man has the capacity to be evil.
No, if brought up
and even in, sorry, I've got to say this, even in your
Let me prove
vision,
to you that it
wouldn't there still be people who are evil?
No, that's what they teach you today. That's not your ideas. This system cannot go on unless it points out you can't have a system where everybody gets everything, because there'll be jealousy, rage, differences in personalities. Some people are hardworking, some are lazy. That's the crap they give you, which is not true. I'm going to show you how people get to be the way they are.
I mean, I love all these ideas. Everybody can have whatever they want. Machines are doing all the work. This is, you know,
you go back to school to learn something useful, a new profession.
But there are people who are just naturally sociopaths.
Not so. That's all
Surely.
folk ways. That's not true.
You don't think there are naturally evil people?
Isn't that I don't think they are. I'm going to explain how they get to be that way. When you've got two children, if you play with the young one, and the 7-year-old stays there, you'll notice that lower lip, if you're playing with the young one, you're making jealousy and envy. I always take my older child, put him on, and my younger child, and say, this is your baby brother. I do never use one child against the other. Why can't you put your dishes away like your sister does? You leave everything spread around, and I have to pick up after you. If mother does that, she makes jealousy and envy amongst the children. Women will have to go back to school to learn how to raise children. Now, you're taught in school that plants grow. I'm sure you were. Mm-hmm. And you're taught in school that everybody should have a right to their own opinion. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, suppose you lived across the way from me, and I see 10 guys coming out of your apartment, and I have a right to my own opinion. She could be a ballet instructor, language instructor. Never give people the right to their own opinion. If their own opinion is sane, and I say, what's going on there? I honestly don't know. She could be a language instructor, a ballet instructor. But if you give everybody a right to their own opinion, you think man will ever get to the moon? Nah, not in 1,000 years. I'm not interested in that. Are you a rocket expert? Do you know anything about space travel? I don't want your opinion.
You know, if you have a society as it is today, and you have few nations and few people controlling most of the Earth's resources, you're going to have war, you're going to have poverty, you're going to have stealing, you're going to have crime. And then you make laws and try and make people ethical and say, don't steal, and you put them in jail and you call them evil if you do that. In the society we're talking about, you produce abundance as quickly as possible, and you make goods and services available to everyone. So you eliminate the need for stealing. So you change what you call human nature. It's really no human nature. You change human behavior by making goods and services available. So you don't have to make laws, don't steal. You don't call them evil because they steal. You get this good and bad, right and wrong from religion. But if you change the environment, you change the way people behave towards one another. If you make goods and services available so they don't have to go to work at jobs that they hate, and people who have minimum wage, they have stress up to here, they have to take days off to take their kid to the hospital because they can't afford medical care in the United States anyway, in a good part of the world, then you have people who have stress up to here, and it's easier to try and steal, and they would call them evil. You know, you're not born with bigotry or prejudice or envy or being mad.
I have no doubt that if you were to give people whatever they wanted, there would be less crime, but there would still be crime. People would have affairs, and the husband or the wife would find out and kill the husband or the wife.
Yes.
That would happen. So you would still have crime.
Yes.
What, after the transition, nobody would have affairs, no one would get jealous, no one would kill anybody?
I'm about to explain that to you.
Okay.
When I was 21, I worked my way to the South Sea Islands. I want to know what people would be like if they weren't brought up in civilization. When I got to Tuamotu, when I landed there, I brought mirrors and beads. I was going to give it out to the natives to establish friendship. I come as a friend, not to take anything away from them. But they were already in my hut 3 hours after I arrived, giving out my mirrors and beads to one another with a great big grin.
Well, Gauguin did that, didn't he, in the 19th century, and he gave them all syphilis, you know.
Now, I said to them, well, how come you're giving my stuff away? And they said, you've got too many.